At Sunday lunch, my daughter-in-law shocked me with her words, "You won't sit at the table." Disbelief rippled through the air, instantly extinguishing the warmth I'd created in my kitchen. For months, I had planned this gathering, envisioning my pot roast, slow cooked with love, just like Harold taught me, and the laughter that would fill the room, reminiscent of so many Sundays gone by. But Emily's declaration hung like a dark cloud, twisting my gut into knots. My heart felt heavy. I had devoted my life to nurturing this family, and yet here I stood, stripped of dignity in my own home. The living room was adorned with photographs of cherished memories, my boys in caps and gowns, holiday dinners filled with joy, Harold's warm smile etched in every frame. But Emily's rigid voice pierced through the nostalgia. I had always believed family was a fortress against the world's chaos, but now I felt vulnerable, a mere shadow against the very ideals I thought unbreakable. The roots of my existence were entwined in tradition, and here was my daughter-in-law advocating for change, for progress, a concept that felt so foreign to me. My hands trembled as I stirred the pot roast, an uncanny blend of flavors simmering just as surely as my anxiety swelled. I could sense the turbulent emotions swirling. It wasn't only about sitting at the table, or lack thereof. Emily's words echoed deeper motives, the kind that spoke of ambitions and a life lived beyond the suffocating constraints of domestic expectation. The tension steeped in the air, much like the scent of thyme and rosemary that enveloped me. I could feel the eyes of my family darting between us, uncomfortable witnesses to our battle of wills. "Martha, just let it go," said my eldest son, but his platitudes were like soft cushions against a stone wall. How could I just let it go? With each word argued, a disjointed chorus of "respect your elders" and "pleas for understanding change," my pulse quickened. It was a cacophony of ideals clanging against the facade of my cherished values. But as Emily spoke of community projects and the need for growth, I caught glimpses of her struggle. This polished lawyer, fiercely ambitious, yet burdened by the weight of expectations, seemed to wrestle with something deeper than mere rivalry. Beneath her confident exterior was a woman grappling with the contradictions of loyalty versus ambition. The very thought made my heart ache. I saw her desperation flickering behind her sharp words. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from.
I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As voices clashed around the table, the pot roast bubbling behind me, I felt like I was on the precipice of something monumental. My identity as a devoted wife and mother, the very cornerstone of who I was, wavered precariously against my desire to defend what I held dear. The faces of my grandchildren, innocent to the turmoil, looked at me, unaware of the conflict unfolding. Could I find a way to hold on to our family while still allowing her room to flourish? My thoughts raced, trapped between nostalgia and the pressing need for connection, but the weight of the pot roast in my hands seemed to grow heavier. The silence thickened, as if time itself held its breath. Every fiber of my being screamed to reclaim my place at that table, to remind Emily of the love we shared, of the traditions that wove through our lives. But what if, in doing so, I lost her forever? Suddenly the air felt impossibly close, charged with unspoken anguish. As I stood there staring into her eyes, I realized, though our paths were diverging, we weren't meant to fracture. But could we discern a way to weave together the old with the new? The ticking of the clock echoed through the silence, as I wondered, would we navigate this delicate dance between pride and love? The aroma of pot roast lingered, yet I sensed our family dynamic would never be the same. I inhaled sharply, the fragrance of pot roast now mingling with the bitterness of my thoughts. My heart raced as I considered my response. Rejecting Emily's directive felt like pushing against a dam that was steadily bursting. 2 generations clashed, I was fortified by tradition, while she wielded her modern views like armor. Would I continue to fight for a seat at my own table, or was there a way to reframe this narrative? My eyes shifted to my son's face, a mix of helplessness and concern. The tension was palpable. I felt the walls closing in around me, but amidst that constriction, a thread of clarity emerged. Emily was not just challenging my role, she was unknowingly inviting me into a dialogue. A pang of realization coursed through me. This was not solely about entitlement, it was about redefining relationships. I took a deep breath. Emily, it seems we both want what's best for this family, I ventured cautiously. But perhaps we can find a way to honor the past and embrace the future simultaneously. The words felt foreign as they escaped my lips, yet liberated at the same time. The silence that followed was electric. She blinked, momentarily taken aback. For a fleeting moment, her rigid stance faltered, and I sensed a hint of surprise flickering in her eyes. It was a glimmer of recognition, a potential willingness to bridge the chasm between us.
To grow just means to adjust our perspective, I continued, my voice steadier now. Perhaps we both need to reevaluate what love means in this family, especially when traditions start to weigh us down. The words flowed like the pot roast simmering in the kitchen. I could see the internal conflict etch itself into her expression. It was that same struggle I felt. I wanted to nurture, to protect what I had built, but I also craved acceptance, for both myself and for Emily. The room remained silent, the eyes of my family glued to us, as if waiting for a sign of where we would go next. I wasn't sure what I'd say next, but I felt a new determination bubbling up inside me. I didn't want to look back and regret this moment. Emily, I said slowly, I see your ambition, and I understand your need for progress. But can we make a commitment to each other that will work through these obstacles together? As I spoke, I couldn't help but admire the strength it took to confront my fears. What if I dared to collaborate? What if I could become an ally instead of an adversary? I was teetering on the edge of vulnerability. Maybe it took the threat of losing something cherished to realize how deeply I cared to preserve it. My voice slightly trembled, but bore a newfound confidence. I'll help you in your projects, I proposed, surprising even myself. But we need to establish traditions that will allow us to bond and grow as a family. A wave of discomfort washed over the room, and it was my son who finally broke the silence. We need to find common ground, Mom, he interjected, eager to diffuse the escalating tension. Emily's face softened, and a flicker of hope ignited in her gaze. Maybe there is a way, she whispered, and in that moment it became clear that she too felt the weight of expectation pressing down. As we exchanged tentative smiles, I felt the heavy burden of pride lifting ever so slightly. Perhaps this wasn't a contentious battle for identity, but an opportunity to redefine it together. Yet, as relief settled in, I sensed something else lingering beneath the surface, a question about the impact of my own choices. What would my family look like now, reimagined yet rooted? There was a new path ahead, but with every step into the unfamiliar, I couldn't ignore the simmering doubt. Could I truly adapt without sacrificing what I held dear? The warmth of the pot roast enveloped me again, a reminder of my deep-seated affection for tradition. What if the next move in this fragile dance required me to confront a past I have not yet fully reconciled? With each tick of the clock, I knew this was the first of many conversations we would need to have. The reflection is daunting, but so was the possibility of change. How many layers of my identity would I need to peel back to find a place where all of us could thrive? The sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, casting a golden hue across the array of dishes on the table. For a moment, I focused on the mundane, the fluffy mashed potatoes, the perfectly roasted vegetables, trying to ground myself in the familiar. Yet the familiar was shifting beneath my feet. How ironic that this meal, once a bastion of comfort, now felt like a battleground. The air was still charged with the echoes of our conversation. I glanced at Emily again, hoping to glean her thoughts from her expression as she helped herself to a serving of pot roast. She seemed contemplative, though her brow furrowed slightly. That wrinkle signified a struggle I recognized all too well,
a wrestling match between the past and the future. "I appreciate you being open," she finally said, her voice softening. It was a world away from the earlier confrontation. "I just don't want to repeat patterns that haven't served us." Her willingness to engage felt like a gateway, yet I found myself hesitant, weighed down by my own history. I understood her perspective. In her eyes, tradition represented stagnation. In my heart, it symbolized stability. But at this moment, it was not just about our conflicting views. It was about finding mutual ground. "What if we honor the past in ways that don't stifle growth?" I proposed, the words forming an emerging vision I could sense but not fully articulate. It felt more like a dance than a debate, a rhythm of negotiation that required trust. Emily leaned in slightly, her interest piqued. "Like what?" she replied, skepticism still lingering in her tone. A flicker of inspiration ignited. "What if we created a new family tradition for Sunday dinner, a collaborative effort? Each week we could choose a dish from different family members, blending culinary customs." The idea felt exhilarating and terrifying. Would it truly matter who prepared dinner? Was I willing to let go of this singular claim on tradition? Seeing Emily consider the suggestion relieved my tightening chest. She actually seemed intrigued. "That could be fun," she replied slowly, favoring the hopeful side of her contemplation. "We could invite everyone to contribute. Even the kids could help decide what we make." And just like that, I envisioned an ambitious project, a family tradition co-created, which might knit us closer together instead of tearing us apart. Yet, lurking in the back of my mind was the weight of my own lack of involvement in my son's life. Had I been too steamrolled by my own version of tradition? "I'm all in," I declared with newfound resolve. But as a flicker of enthusiasm surged through me, doubts began to rear their head. The shifting dynamics in our family were more profound than simply sharing recipes. I needed to consider how my willingness to adapt would alter my own role. Who would I become in this redefined family landscape? My son's eyes sparkled with excitement, and for the first time, I noticed how deeply he craved our connection to evolve beyond argumentation. "You mean it?" he asked, his voice laced with anticipation.
"Absolutely," I affirmed, displacing residual doubts to give way to the thrill of possibility. "But can we agree to be patient with each other as we explore this shift?" Emily and my son exchanged glances, and a subtle, united nod assured me I wasn't alone in this venture. There would be trials, I was certain. Tension would arise again as our roles shifted, but doubt had begun to release its grip. What might this new path reveal about my capabilities? Could my willingness to adapt reveal hidden skills I never knew I had? As promised conversations loomed ahead, I braced myself for unexpected challenges, excited but wary of the transformation awaiting me. Yet a gnawing anxiety began to weave through my excitement. In embracing this collaboration, would I lose elements of my identity I cherished? Just then, the timer on the oven dinged, a subtle signal that the roast was ready. The moment felt charged with anticipation, but what more awaited just beyond the dinner table? I would discover soon enough, setting the stage for yet another round of revelations. The roast emitted an inviting aroma as the steam curled around the kitchen, mingling with the remnants of our earlier tension. I placed it on the table, suddenly aware that this ostensibly ordinary meal was layered with complexity. It was more than just dinner. It was our first step into uncertain territory, each plate a marker of our evolving family dynamics. "I don't want to lose what we've had." The unspoken weight of my past clung to me like a shroud, each moment tightening around my chest. Had I unintentionally implied rejection of Emily's family? I battled with the visceral urge to pull back into my comfort zone, while a new, softer voice dared me to stay open. "Or maybe we can make it a mix," my son suggested, willing to mediate. "Like we could integrate Grandma's dumplings into one of Dad's sauces. We could be experimental." The juxtaposition of my son's innocence with my own doubts momentarily disoriented me, highlighting the chasm between youthful openness and grown-up reservations. Would their enthusiasm break the defensive walls I had constructed? "Experimental," I echoed, feeling the intrigue start to replace my apprehension. The term sparked fresh curiosity, transforming my defense into a flexible mindset. What if this becomes a showcase of our families?
Emily smiled slightly, the tension easing amid new possibility. "Now you're talking," she remarked, leaning into the prospect of a culinary fusion. The horizon before us suddenly widened, and I felt myself reclaiming some ground, redefining my role without abandoning my roots. Yet uncertainty still loomed. Would those roots intertwine with Emily's family, or suffocate under the weight of my hesitation? I felt a quiet determination build, a resolution to navigate uncharted waters, not out of obligation, but a desire to build a bridge with trust as its foundation. As dinner wound down, laughter wafted through the air, but amidst the warmth lay the nagging undertow of unresolved tensions. Change, I realized, was as thrilling as it was terrifying. Grassroots transformations were never just about recipes or traditions. They were tapestries woven from individual threads. In that moment, my resolution sharpened. Next week, I would introduce a dish of my own, a dish that spoke of my past while inviting a new narrative. But would I be ready to face the reactions of Emily's family? As I watched my son's excited chatter continue, I grasped for the right words to share my vision, sensing hesitations already clawing back to the surface. The real challenge loomed in confronting my fears, stepping into vulnerability, and truly embracing this new journey. But just as I opened my mouth to speak, the weight of silence enveloped the room. The moment was pregnant with potential, a clear reflection of the personal battles yet to come. The real question loomed: could I fully commit to this evolution, and at what cost to my sense of identity? The reflections awaited me like shadows at the doorstep, begging to be faced. What awaited just beyond the threshold of this risky endeavor? The truth wouldn't be long in revealing itself. The weekend approached with an unexpected mixture of excitement and anxiety.
I had spent countless hours thinking about the dish I would bring to Emily's family gathering, not merely as a culinary offering, but as a representation of my identity, my heritage, a late-blooming testament to who I wanted to be in this evolving tapestry of family. The air felt thick as the day drew closer, my anticipation shadowed by a gnawing doubt. Standing in my kitchen, I thumbed through my mother's handwritten recipe, the ink slightly faded, but the memory sharp. Balsamic glazed roasted vegetables, a simple yet soulful dish, seasoned with stories of my past, yet now carrying the weight of my future. Each ingredient felt like a piece of me, intertwined with the tale I was about to tell. As Saturday night merged into Sunday morning, an unshakable heaviness occupied my gut. The thought of taking this leap, of standing before a gathering of Emily's family, fueled an internal dialogue that veered toward pessimism. What if my flames flickered rather than ignited? Uncertainty pressed against my breastbone. Could I bear any ridicule for my dish, or worse, for my presence? I paused as I prepared the vegetables, letting the aromas waft through the kitchen. Cooking became a meditative act, a diversion from my spiraling thoughts. With each chop, I could hear the echoes of my mother's voice guiding me through the process. I envisioned the fusion of cultures that awaited, the coming together of distinct identities in one shared moment. My determination sprouted quietly, but the seed remained fragile. "Ready for the big day?" my son chirped, peeking into the kitchen where the slices of squash lay glistening, ready for the oven. "Absolutely," I forced, feeling far from ready. "Just thinking through the flavors." "Are you worried?" he asked, his hand grazing the countertop, betraying his awareness of my tension. "Worried? No, not at all," I exclaimed, possibly too loud, then took a calming breath. "Just trying to make sure we impress." His thoughtful gaze softened the edges of my apprehension. "You will. Everyone will like it," he assured, his trust in me both comforting and burdensome. Dinner time approached, and my skin prickled with both hope and anxiety. At the table, I felt distinctly outnumbered, halting before the entrance like a boxer peeking into the ring, observing the crowd. Emily's family buzzed with warmth and light, their laughter intertwined, forming an environment that was at once welcoming and intimidating. The moment I stepped in, I was engulfed by the sense of otherness. As I placed my dish on the table, I felt the weight of scrutiny beneath the jovial banter. The act of exposing myself to judgment sent trembling waves through my resolve. Emily's family began to dish out plates, politely commenting on the food,
as if navigating uncharted waters. Then the moment came. "What's this?" Emily's sister quipped, a playful smile woven through her inquiry. "Balsamic glazed roasted vegetables."
"Just something from my family," I managed to say, but uncertainty quivered in my voice. "Looks pretty healthy, not like the dumplings." She laughed, and the tension clung tightly to the edges of her sarcasm, igniting a knot in my stomach. Their playful banter felt delightful yet sharp, a reminder that I was nailed to my own cross of insecurity. Would they dismiss my contribution entirely? Did I belong in this space, or was I an outsider grasping to fit in amid traditions that were not my own? As I wrestled with my internal dialogue, I suddenly locked eyes with Emily. Her encouraging nod reflected my own inner yearning. "Hey everyone, how about we mix it up?" Emily suggested, her voice ringing with enthusiasm. "A taste of both worlds, a fusion." As she expertly guided the conversation, the atmosphere lightened, my spirits cautiously lifting with each playful reference to our disparate roots. I found myself slowly releasing the clenching grasp of my doubts, discovering a flickering sense of belonging amidst the laughter. But the night took a sudden turn. "You won't sit at the table," Emily's sister declared, half joking, but her tone hinted at serious intent. My heartbeat quickened, a pulse of dread surging through me. The implications lay heavily in the air as laughter dwindled, turning a vibrant gathering into a stage for the unmooring of my self-worth. In that moment, I questioned my choices and the journey ahead. Had I miscalculated? Could I allow myself the risk of vulnerability once more, especially after such a backlash? The horizon of family ties felt distant and estranged. The evening had foreshadowed deeper conflicts lurking just beneath the surface. If my quest for connection allowed doubt to interrupt the thrill of growth, how long could I sustain this newly built bridge before it collapsed? What awaited me beyond this pivotal confrontation? The question tightened its grip. Was I prepared to fight for my place at the table, or was it time to reassess? Tension rose ominously, begging for resolution as unresolved questions echoed loudly within. The room hummed with an uneasy silence, and I felt its weight settle on my shoulders. The laughter from moments ago evaporated, replaced by the taut lines of tension that ran through the gathering. Emily's sister's words echoed like metal clanging on concrete. I stood clutching the spatula as if it were a lifeline, scanning the room for support. My pulse raced. I had come here with a dish steeped in love and tradition, hoping to bridge the gap between our worlds. Now I was frozen, a statue, amidst the ebb and flow of familial connection. Was I to be reduced to nothing more than an outsider, a spectacle for their amusement? Despite the turmoil, I felt the sharp bite of determination pierce through my despair. This was more than just about a dish. It was about me owning my space, asserting my identity. Hadn't I spent years trying to define who I was outside of others' expectations?
It was time to take a deep breath, to reclaim the narrative. "Actually," I began, my voice steadier than I felt, "I would like to sit at the table. My dish is a part of that story too." The words flowed out with unanticipated confidence. The statement hung in the air, a challenge, a declaration. Emily jumped in. "Come on, we're all family, right? Let's not do this." Her voice, normally soothing, now had an edge, an urgency that mirrored my own rising tension. But Emily's sister remained firm, the challenge flickering across her face. "Serious tradition here, you know," she shrugged, tossing her words like breadcrumbs to the wolves. The exchange was charged, as those around us found themselves at the intersection of loyalty and curiosity. I let the silence settle again, contemplating my next move. What did I want out of this moment? Acceptance? Acknowledgement? The random musings of insecurities began to swirl back. Could I endure the implications of a refusal? My mental wheel spun furiously. It wasn't just this dinner, not just this moment that defined me. I'd always been good at blending cultures, at creating connections even within the chasms of discomfort. I had to accept discomfort as part of the process of growth. "I am proud of my heritage," I stated, forcing composure into the quavering fabric of my voice. "Those vegetables are more than just food. They carry my family's essence and story. I hope they'd be welcomed here." The response was a flutter of glances. Some were curious, others skeptical. Emily's sister seemed momentarily taken aback, perhaps realizing that she had underestimated the depth of my resolve. The shift was palpable. The laughter began to fill the gaps, but it felt more subdued now, respectful. A flicker of encouragement emerged from Emily's face, as if she were silently rooting for me to dive deeper. And that's what makes us unique, right? We blend flavors, experiences. It's our own fusion, she added, her voice layered with sincerity. Her mother, observing the back and forth, interjected, "So how about we all sit and explore this dish you've brought? After all, what's a table without diversity?" The table, once an arena of competition, now felt like an invitation to unity. Relief, slowly seeping in, washed over me as I understood that I had managed to shift the energy in the room. My heart beat in rhythm with this newfound acceptance, yet I was acutely aware that this was only the beginning. I slowly moved to take a seat, the air shifting as everyone adjusted to this unanticipated disruption. The moment felt like a victory, albeit a small one, and I felt emboldened to assert my story, my roots, at any gathering that awaited. But the underlying currents of family secrets still lingered. Systems of tradition were not easily dismantled, and a deeper challenge awaited. As conversation flourished around the food, I couldn't shake the unsettling sense that this was only a precursor to what lay ahead. Can one mere dish truly alter the family narrative? The real test was just around the corner, and I could sense it looming. What would emerge from the next encounter, the next challenge? Only time would reveal whether this was a mere catalyst for change, or the beginning of a deeper reckoning. The warmth of acceptance that had briefly flooded the room began to cool, replaced by an undercurrent of unresolved tensions. I could feel the knot in my stomach tighten as conversations meandered around me, laughter and chatter, two sides of the same coin, masking deeper rifts just beneath the surface. Though the atmosphere had softened, I knew there was more at play. A taste of victory felt bittersweet as my gaze flicked over the assembled faces, trying to decode their lingering skepticism or barely veiled approval. Was this truly a moment of triumph, or simply a temporary reprieve from the ongoing battle for acceptance? I couldn't help but reflect on how the evening had shifted. My initial hesitation melted away, but now doubt surfaced anew. Had or could my dish forge a new path, one that would broaden the world I stepped into? I had grabbed onto my heritage as a lifebuoy. The question remained, would it be enough to withstand the storms of family rivalry and tradition? Emily's mother, openly curious, likened my dish to a palate cleanser, offering glimpses of my culture, but a hint of dismissal lingered in her tone. I guessed that for some, my heritage was merely an added garnish, rather than a cornerstone. I had cracked open a window, but would it be flung wide open, or would it swing shut quickly when the dust settled? As the evening dragged on, I gathered the courage to engage with others. I leaned towards Emily's sister, maintaining a smile even as I sensed her tension. "What's your favorite dish?" I asked, trying to bring warmth back into the conversation. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Baked ziti, of course." The defensiveness in her tone sparked a turmoil of impatience within me. I pondered how to navigate these waters without drowning. "I have a recipe I've been working on that fuses the two cuisines. Maybe we can collaborate on it?" I ventured, trying to frame an olive branch between us. The words tasted foreign in my mouth, and I held my breath, awaiting her response. Her lips pressed together, indecisive. "Maybe," she replied, but the hesitation hung like a shadow in the air. It was clear that acceptance would not arrive easily, that bridge building would be a sustained battle, not a single victory. The moments stretched, and I felt the weight of the room settling in my chest. Families had their histories sewn together with threads of loyalty, peppered with grudges. Every glimmer of hope I felt clashed with the reality. I was entering a tapestry where each stitch mattered. A lull in the conversation handed me a singular opportunity to probe a deeper vein of the family's dynamics. "Can I ask why tradition holds such a tight grip?" I asked, casually, though my heartbeat raced with trepidation. "What keeps it alive?" Silence gripped the table. Emily raised an eyebrow, signaling me to retract the question, but it had left my lips. Curiosity had unwound my restraint. Emily's mother sighed heavily. "Tradition brings us comfort, and the past guides our future. It's how we remain whole." The response offered insight, but carried an edge, implying any deviation threatened their foundation. I absorbed her words, feeling the gravity of that wholeness. Who was I to disrupt their balance? My mind raced, grappling with what acceptance truly meant and how far I was willing to reach for it. I understand, I said carefully, yet isn't growth dependent on the uncomfortable? The air shifted once more, this time the tension morphing into something unfamiliar. I had revealed more than I intended, sending ripples through the family gathering. Would that signal a welcome challenge to their status quo, or just more friction against my assimilation? The night trudged onward, the food tasting richer as doubt melded into resolve. Yet beneath the surface, I sensed shadows looming, secrets waiting to unwind. As the evening wrapped up, I leaned in closer to Emily, feeling her warmth beside me, a breath of hope. What do you think their reaction genuinely will be? Will they ever look at me as one of their own? Emily opened her mouth to respond, but paused, her eyes flickering with concern. The future shimmered like an uncharted territory, a gripping unknown lurking ahead. I was determined to traverse it, no matter the obstacles or the ghosts of family history that awaited me. Determination coursed through me. I was hungry for connection, but was I ready to confront the true cost once the dust settled? What would the next encounter reveal? The day dawned bright and clear, an unexpected contrast to the emotional labor of the previous night. The sun streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the faces of Emily and her family as laughter intertwined with the aroma of freshly baked bread. Yet the tension I had felt loomed over me, a haunting echo wrapped in the warmth of the sunlit kitchen. As I sipped my coffee, my thoughts trod back to the implications of my recent discussion with Emily's family. There was a fracture, not just in my relationship with them, but in the way I perceived my identity. Each smile from Emily felt laden with quiet determination, urging me to step into a role that felt increasingly precarious. I had offered a piece of myself, but would it be accepted or cast aside? "You know they're really trying," Emily said, noticing my distant gaze. Her voice was soft, imbued with a tenderness that urged me to reconnect. "I want to believe that, but it feels more like a performance," I replied, my tone betraying the anxiety I struggled to contain. They were polite, but underlying that courtesy, I sense uncertainty. Accepting someone is a process, not an event.
"You opened a door. Now you have to walk through and see what's on the other side," she encouraged, her eyes glinting with optimism. But was I ready for what lay behind that door? The courage I had mustered last night shivered beneath her gaze. Mid-morning crept in, and the family began to gather in the dining room for their Sunday tradition, lunch. The long table, laden with an array of familiar favorites, set the stage for another act. I tried to steady my breaths, reminding myself that growth was anchored in discomfort. As we sat, the conversation flowed, stories of childhood, humorous mishaps, and fond family traditions. I leaned into these glimpses, keen to weave my own narrative into the tapestry they shared. Yet that ribbon of doubt began to unravel as the food was laid in front of us. "I brought some additional dishes to share," I interjected, forcing a smile. "A blend of your favorites and mine." The clink of forks halted momentarily. All eyes drew towards me. I sensed the collective hesitation that rippled through the room. Unease settled in the air like a weight, each member acutely aware of their own traditions stirring in conflict with my offerings. "What is this? What do you mean?" Emily's sister asked, skepticism dripping from her words, mirroring the look in her eyes that had shot through me like an arrow. Chills tracked down my spine. This was it. I was not only bringing food to the table, I was steering the course of the conversation. A part of me wanted to retract, to hide. Yet another part, emboldened by the belief that I deserved a space at this table, fought against that impulse. "I thought it would be nice to celebrate both our culinary heritages," I mused, simulating lightness, though I felt far from it. Mixing flavors from our families could be enriching. There it was, my die cast in the air. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily's mother cleared her throat. Her stoic expression spoke volumes. "Tradition is our lifeline," she responded, her voice steady, yet filled with an emotion I couldn't quite place. There it was again, the sense of a barrier I was pushing against, the fine balance I threatened to disrupt. Did they view my fusion as an affront or more of a bridge? A line was drawn in the sand, and I had to decide which side to stand on. With the clamor of forks resuming, I stewed in my thoughts. My dish to them was an alien intrusion, but would their hesitance sap my resolve or galvanize it? Perhaps the struggle for acceptance would deliver something greater than I imagined, a critical confrontation with their perceptions and my identity. As the gathering shifted, small, subtle interactions played out, marked by fleeting glances that told their own stories. Unease thrived beneath the surface, but I felt a flicker of determination sparking within me. I was done playing the unwilling guest.
Can we talk about the role of food in our traditions? I ventured, daring to disrupt the surface tension yet again. What if we explored how combining them could become part of our story? I could see Emily's eyes widen slightly, a flicker of hope mingling with concern. What were we really willing to confront? Faces turned towards me, uncertainty etched on every feature. As they processed my question, the warmth of connection began to stir again, less certain but undeniably present. The moment hung in the air, a precursor to something pivotal. Would my simple query create an opening for dialogue or simply deepen the divide? I sensed a gust of determination swell. Perhaps this was not just about acceptance, but about claiming my voice amidst their family narrative. The possibilities loomed large as I held my breath, sensing we were at a defining juncture. Would I emerge from the shadows and into their embrace, or would one misstep leave me on the outskirts once more? As the weight of their silence enveloped me, I felt my heart race. I was walking a tightrope, straddling the line between challenging tradition and seeking a place of my own. And as I stood poised for their response, the tremors of uncertainty surged, promising that whatever came next would shape me in ways I couldn't yet fathom. Would they welcome the exploration, or would my path be steered down a darker road of rejection? The stakes had never been higher. The silence felt electric, charged with unsaid words and unexpressed emotions. I sensed the weight of Emily's family's gaze, each pair of eyes parsing out my intentions, judging the audacity of my proposition. The air thickened, constricting my chest. What if they insisted on retreating to the comfort of their traditions, shunning any interpretations that felt uncertain, strange, or other? But then, almost imperceptibly, a shift occurred. Emily's mother, her brows knitting together in contemplation, set down her fork decisively. "Food is indeed central to our family," she began haltingly, "but we've always believed that our meals tell stories, stories that hold generations of memories." Her voice betrayed a conflict, the rigidity of tradition battling against curiosity. "Yes, but isn't that how new memories are born? By daring to explore?" I pressed, unable to let the moment slip through my fingers. My heart pounded as I pushed against the rising tide of fear, emboldened by a mix of desperation and hope. "In that vein," Emily added, picking up the thread, "wouldn't a fusion of flavors be a story in itself? It could symbolize our growing connections." Relief flooded me at her support, and a quiet resolve built inside. I needed to bridge this gap between them and me, to find my footing in a family that saw me as an outsider. Each word felt like an affirmation, a small victory that promised empowerment. "With every dish we share," Emily's mother continued, "there's a tale of our past and our love for one another embedded in it." It was a tiny flicker of acceptance, a glimmer of the conversation I had been craving. Perhaps they were willing to consider not just my offering of dishes, but the intention behind them. It dawned on me that they were beginning to see this moment not as a violation of their heritage, but as an evolution. In a surge of inspiration, I suggested, "Let's create new stories together. What if we each contributed something to this meal? Our favorites, paired with yours. It could be a shared project." The idea hung in the air, gently nudging against their defenses. Slowly, the initial skepticism began to yield to curiosity, their brows unfurling slightly as they processed the prospect. "Tomorrow could be a perfect start," Emily's sister offered tentatively. "I've always wanted to learn more about your culture." I bent to the scene before me, the subtle shift in body language, the slowly warming expressions. Hope stirred deep within me, igniting a desire to step boldly into that gap I had felt hanging ominously between us. I could feel the outlines of my identity sharpening. Perhaps blending my past with theirs could lead to not just acceptance, but deeper understanding. As conversations bloomed around the table, I let the rhythm of sharing wash over me, savoring the joy that emerged with every shared story, every laugh piercing through past hesitancies. Each bite taken, mine infused with spice, theirs grounded in sweetness, became a symbol of our willingness to step toward one another rather than remain rooted in fear. Yet even as the warm chatter surrounded me, I felt a sliver of apprehension remain. This was a step towards acceptance, yes, but I was still navigating choppy waters of tradition and identity. Would this budding bridge withstand the scrutiny of deeper family customs? Was I merely a temporary season in their ever-turning wheel of family tradition?
As I gathered my thoughts amidst the conversations, I pondered the often unrecognized tensions each individual could bear, and the weight of the quest for belonging amid a staunch commitment to origins. Finding my voice wasn't just about them accepting me. It was also about me embracing the complexity of their family tapestry while still retaining my essence. Yet the savory blend of possibility hung heavy in the air. I had stood at the precipice of acceptance. Now, as the hues of the experience wove around me, I recognized the power of stepping into the unknown. The journey was only just beginning. Would tomorrow's shared meal solidify my bond with Emily's family, or expose deeper divisions? As I gingerly pondered my place amidst both warmth and doubt, I braced for the next step we would take together. The tangle of emotions made it clear. Everyone had something to lose, and even more to gain.
But the thought that lingered most was about the journey ahead. If embracing a new fusion was a step towards building an even richer tradition, how deeply would I need to go to truly find my place? The anticipation for Sunday dinner hung in the air like a summer breeze, full of promise, yet laden with an undercurrent of tension. Martha had spent the week preparing, carefully crafting her balsamic glazed roasted vegetables, imbuing them with her personal history, and reflecting on the intricate dance of tradition and innovation that had unfolded at the last gathering. This week would be different. She felt it in her bones. As she arrived at Emily's family's home, Martha put on a brave face, driven by a newfound sense of purpose. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a warm hue over the gathering. Josh helped carry in the food, his excitement bubbling over, reigniting her resolve. Family was deeply enmeshed, and for the first time she sensed the potential to forge her own narratives alongside theirs, rather than merely accepting her role as an outsider. The familiar long table was adorned with a spread of dishes, lovingly prepared by Emily's family. The anticipation of sharing her dish with them felt electric. Stepping into the kitchen momentarily, she found Emily arranging plates. Their eyes met, an unspoken understanding passing between them, a bridge they had begun to build last week. "Are you ready?" Emily asked softly, a hint of anxiety threading through her question. "As ready as I'll ever be," Martha replied, her voice steadying herself. She could do this. They could do this. As they entered the dining room, Martha felt her pulse quicken, her heart hammering with both excitement and apprehension. The nervously exchanged glances among Emily's family signaled that they remembered their last gathering. Tension was palpable as she set her dish down among the others, the centerpiece of uncertainty. "Everyone," Emily announced, her voice warm yet firm, "tonight we are continuing our exploration of family traditions." She gestured toward Martha's offering with a hint of pride. "Martha has prepared a dish from her family that she wants to share with us." Martha stood at the edge of the table, heart racing, knowing it was time to lean into the challenge. "I hope you all enjoy my balsamic glazed roasted vegetables. It's a recipe I hold dear," she said, her voice slightly quivering but unwavering. "Tradition is essential to me, but I believe there's beauty in merging stories." Eyes flicked between the dish and her, emotions shifting as they took in her words. There was curiosity, but also a hint of resistance. Emily's sister, who had thrown the previous remark, lingered skeptically but curious nonetheless. "That sounds delightful," she finally said, as a sincere smile broke through the uncertainty. Dinner began, laughter intertwining with forks clinking against ceramic plates.
With each passing moment, an invisible thread began mending the frayed connections among them, forging an understanding. The first bite of Martha's dish elicited surprise, their features shifting from skepticism to admiration. "This is really good," Emily's mother exclaimed, a newfound warmth radiating from her face. "You have quite a knack for flavor." As compliments flowed, Martha sensed the barriers slowly lowering. Conversation shifted, inquiries into origin stories sparked camaraderie, and the air was filled with heady laughter, each bite a step closer to unity. "Why don't we explore family recipes together?" Martha suggested as she pushed back her plate, feeling the distance diminishing. "We could organize a recipe exchange. Each of us could share a dish that's meaningful and incorporate elements from our family's heritage." Emily's sister perked up, her defenses visibly softening at the suggestion. "That could actually be fun, a way to create something new together," she agreed, glancing at the shared dishes with genuine intrigue. "Yes, let's celebrate our differences while building our own unique customs," Emily added, her voice full of enthusiasm. The excitement of the proposition swept through the table, where murmurs of approval and laughter came to life. Martha felt a swell of pride. She had successfully navigated the complexities of their family dynamics, affirming her place within it. As dessert was served, light-hearted conversations flowed seamlessly around their culinary experimentation. For the first time, Martha felt that the dish she brought had done more than just satisfy hunger. It had carved out a space for herself in this new family tapestry, bridging the gap between her heritage and theirs. Reflecting on how far she had come, Martha relished the warmth of camaraderie blooming around the table. She had succeeded in weaving her threads into their fabric without losing herself. With each shared eating experience and interaction, she gained not just acceptance, but recognition of her identity and the stories it carried. The evening drew to a close. Emily embodied a sense of pride as she squeezed Martha's hand, her gaze imbued with gratitude and acknowledgement. "You've shown us how powerful it is to share our stories, Martha. You really belong here." Martha's heart swelled with fulfillment. She had not only overcome her insecurities, but also had conquered the internal fear of acceptance. She felt a renewed confidence swell within her, one that designated her as a valued member of the family, a realization fueled by the resonance of her journey. With promise glowing in her chest, she lingered as the evening faded into night, her thoughts swirling with vibrant excitement for what lay ahead. No longer merely an outsider, she stepped firmly into her role, ready to build upon the bridge she had forged, improved and tested, yet thriving.
This was the moment she had yearned for, a transformation centered around shared stories and the beauty of embracing diversity. As she departed that night, she felt as if she were leaving with not just memories, but the recognition of her own powerful narrative, intertwined now with those she once viewed from beneath a different lens. As she looked back, Martha understood this was just the beginning. She would return next week, ready to further solidify her place, while eagerly anticipating the chance to blend their meal ties into a shared future. And so, she stepped into her newfound confidence, eager for what would come next. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive emotional stories that inspire growth and connection. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these powerful narratives reach those who need them most. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this transformative journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how beautiful evolution can be. Don't wait even one more second to spread the message of personal overcoming.